How do some people shape the course of history without ever being recorded in it? History remembers names carved in stone, kings, emperors, conquerors, but beneath every crown, behind every decree, there were forces at work that left no signature behind. This is a quiet exploration of invisible power, of influence so complete that it erased itself, of people who shaped the world and vanished from its memory, because sometimes the greatest power is not remembered, it simply remains. History often tells us that to matter, you must be named. That legacy belongs to those whose lives were recorded, celebrated, repeated. But history itself tells a different story, if you listen closely. Many of the systems that still govern our lives were not created by a single ruler. They were built slowly, quietly, by people whose names were never preserved. Their work survived. They did not. And that raises an unsettling question. What kind of power disappears from the record, yet continues to rule? Consider ancient law codes. The Code of Hammurabi, a set of laws carved into stone nearly 4,000 years ago to regulate daily life, crime, and punishment in ancient Mesopotamia, is still studied today. But the scribes, advisors, and administrators who shaped how those laws were applied were never named. They organized society, regulated behavior, created order where chaos once existed. The laws endured. The authors disappeared. By any measure of influence, this was not failure. It was success. Because when power works perfectly, it no longer needs to be visible. We are taught to associate power with visibility, with command, with recognition. But history shows us another kind. Quieter, deeper, more enduring. Power that does not demand credit. Power that operates through systems, customs, expectations. Power that becomes so embedded in daily life that it feels inevitable. And once power feels inevitable, it no longer needs a name. Here is another question worth sitting with. What if being forgotten was not a loss, but the final stage of influence? When a person's ideas outlive them so completely that no one remembers who introduced them, those ideas no longer belong to history. They belong to reality. Look at the Roman world. Emperors came and went, often violently, but the administrative systems remained. Taxation, census records, provincial governance. These systems were maintained by countless officials whose names were never recorded. They shaped how millions lived, worked, and obeyed authority. The empire fell. The systems echoed forward for centuries. The individuals vanished. Their influence did not. So why does history erase some people but preserve their power? Because history favors stories, and stories prefer heroes. But systems are not heroic. They are quiet. They are procedural. They do not fit neatly into myths. And yet, systems change the world far more permanently than any single ruler ever could. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The more effective a system becomes, the less visible its creators need to be. When something functions smoothly, no one asks who designed it. When order feels natural, no one searches for its origin. And so the architects of influence fade, not because they failed, but because they succeeded too completely. Now ask yourself this: how many forces shape your life every day that you never think to question? Rules you follow, norms you accept, structures you assume have always existed. Someone created those, someone decided how they would work, and yet their names are gone. This pattern repeats across centuries. In medieval Europe, religious doctrine was enforced by anonymous clerics. In imperial China, bureaucratic examinations shaped governance without crediting their designers. In ancient societies, rituals, hierarchies, and customs were maintained by people history never bothered to remember. Power moved through them, not around them, and once it passed through, they disappeared from the story. So what does history actually remember? Not influence, but interruption. Not systems, but figures who disrupted them. History remembers collapse, not continuity. It remembers spectacle, not stability, and the people who built stability were often erased precisely because they prevented collapse. This leads to a final unsettling thought. What if the goal of true power was never to be remembered at all? What if the highest form of influence is shaping the world so thoroughly that your absence is never noticed? History may forget your name, but it will live inside your work. And perhaps that is the quiet truth history rarely admits. The world was not built by the famous alone. It was shaped by the unseen, by those whose power did not announce itself, but endured. If this story resonated with you, there are many more like it, hidden just beneath the surface of the past. And in the echoes of history, their influence is still speaking.